With Softvoya, what we're doing is augmenting staff. So offering front-end, back-end, full-stack developers, UX designers, product owners that can help tech companies ship code. And then as we were doing this, I started to see a big gap in our market for our entrepreneurs. Mobile apps, software, but spending so much on unvalidated ideas. And it made me mad. Well, okay, what if you could create that same idea without any code for $5K. But then you can take that to investors. You can take that to early adopters. You can start getting feedback before you spend money on development. Validate that your idea is what they want.
What do they present to you to try to keep you to stay?
Yeah, so the VP offered me instant raise. I could take 2 months paid vacation to go travel and come back. I could get a transfer in 6 months to the international office of my choice. And he offered to buy me bedroom furniture because I told him I was sleeping on an air mattress because I'd already sold everything.
And you still said, to hell with you? I love it. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and you're tuning into another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Today, we have another amazing guest with us. Colleen Kinsey is in the house. Colleen, welcome to the pod.
Yahoo! Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here.
Yes. We got unexpected snow this morning, so thank you for trudging through all that to get out here in February. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff. Your current business that you're doing now, Softvoya, but also kind of your career path, your arc in entrepreneurship, dipping in and out of being an entrepreneur, going back to a full-time job and coming back again to the dark side of entrepreneurship. So really excited to dig into your story, help motivate and inspire the next generation of people that are wanting to start cool stuff. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. You're going to have to put your seatbelt on and buckle up. This is going to be a ride. Yes,
I'm so excited for this. So before we dig into that, I know we were talking before we started recording about how do we meet? So I still am drawing a blank how this happened, but I want to say it was a couple years ago.
Definitely pre-pandemic. And I almost wonder if I saw your stuff online first before I met you in person.
That could be very true.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people that I've met at networking events and like, Ryan Snod or Rhymes with Odd. And I'm like, you've seen my videos. Like, it's kind of funny. And then they laugh and they're like, you're the same person that you are online. I'm like, why would you want to be anybody else? Like, that's kind of the point there. So I think it would probably help people just to understand if you just tell people who you are and what you do currently, and then we can kind of jump back and figure out how you got there. So Who are you and what do you do?
Oh my gosh, what a convoluted question. Who am I?
Very, very therapeutic. Like we need a couch and like some blot image paintings that you're like, what does this look like? Who are you?
Yeah, right. What does that mean about you? So I am a sandbox kid, meaning I grew up in the same exact sandbox, K through 12, in Granger, Iowa. So not far from here. It was actually very nostalgic driving up here, thinking, oh yeah, I remember when I got pulled over right there, and when I got rear-ended there. How sweet.
That is so cool. I didn't know you were a hometown girl. I knew you were close, but that's really, really cool.
Well, and then my dad also went to Johnston, so it's a generational thing. But my entire life, I was looking at how do I get out of Iowa? How do I go and explore the world? And it's funny because something always brings me back to Des Moines, and I finally decided to stop fighting it.
Sure. So you grew up in Granger area. Did you go to college? Where did you go? And did you ever leave this town, or did you always stay in Des Moines?
Yeah. So I spent one semester at Mankato in Minnesota and transferred back to Iowa State, where I got a degree in finance management and international business. And I found that I didn't really like math, and so found that finance wasn't for me. And I also studied abroad, really wanted to travel, and so I went into IT consulting, and I went and worked for an electronic medical record company down in Kansas City. And that first job taught me so much. It taught me, one, how to be uncomfortable when you don't know what you're doing. How to live into that, and also how to figure things out on your own. So one of the things that I love to do when things aren't going as quick as I want, or things are taking longer, I see, oh, I wonder if I could figure that out. So I then became an integration architect, and I was in charge of all of the hospital electronic systems connecting, launching that within the hospital, doing testing, go live, and then post go live support. And I was really great at it. They would put me on the most problem clients, the ones that were—
How nice of them.
I know. The mean ones, the ones that have already been burned, that are just, need saving, which was fine. And so I got to go into difficult situations, sort them out, try to fix them, create relationships. And I loved doing that. But the problem was I was in, small town Georgia, different places on the East Coast. And really, I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to see the world.
Where do you think that excitement for travel came? Was that just something you've always wanted to do? Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, let me get the hell out of Iowa, or they're like, I'm never leaving. It's one or the other.
I actually feel like it's in my DNA. So, my ancestors were on one of the first boats over to the U.S. My grandmother was part of the Daughters of the Revolution.
Oh, wow.
I, growing up, hearing about my grandparents' travels as they went different places. My great-grandmother was a missionary. When we were growing up, we would pack everybody into the 16-passenger dad van and drive to the national parks over the summer. So it's always kind of been in me, I feel like. And so when I was working at this company, I would apply for the London office, the Dubai office, and they put me in northern New Hampshire in the middle of winter. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, if I want to go somewhere, I'm the one that's got to figure that out. I can't rely on a company, on someone else to take a chance on me. It's got to be me. And that really catapulted. My maternal grandmother was getting ready to pass away, and I was fortunate to spend some time with her. And I asked her, what are some of the most memorable moments that you're thinking about right now? And she told me about traveling with her younger sister across Eastern Europe, chasing after some guy that her sister was in love with.
God, this sounds like a Hallmark movie.
I know. And think about it. This was back before you had cell phones, email, Google Maps, which saves me every day, and only pay phones and postcards. So, having that moment with her, it made me realize I can't wait. If I want something to happen, I got to do it. So I began teaching myself how to do search engine optimization, how to build websites. And I honestly started by monetizing blogs. So my very first website was a guitar and ukulele website, which got over 100,000 views a month. And I just started to build this. But before I kind of made the leap, I was really preparing, cleaning house, if you will. So I was getting ready to quit my job. I was saving up as much money as I could. So I saved up about $20,000. I was selling my appliances on Craigslist for extra cash, Uber driving at night, literally anything you could think of to try to scrounge up enough money. I put in my notice at my job, and at this big 10,000 person company, it went all the way up to the VP. And they're like, we've never had this happen before. What could we do to get you to stay?
No one's ever quit before, or put a notice
quit without something else to lined up, and to just throw it to the wind.
That's crazy. So we'll pause there for a second because this is pretty insane. What was kind of the deciding factor for you to do it? Was it the travel, but also was it the seeking for adventure? Because it sounds like that's really what it was. It's like I like talking to your grandma, and it's like I don't want to live with regret or be on my deathbed and be like, what the heck? So what was it for you that was like the thing that tipped the camel's back?
At the moment, it was seeking adventure, but looking back on it now, it was finding myself.
Okay. I love that. So you're throwing everything in the kitchen sink in to save it. Before we go to the next step, I love the blog story because what year was this? This is like circa what?
2015.
Okay. And I know like that's kind of interesting. Did you have an interest in guitar or ukulele, or did you just know it would rank well for SEO?
Ryan, I've never played either instrument.
Okay. I was like, I should have brought my guitar. We could play a little bit.
It ranked really well for SEO.
Okay, great. So, and for people that don't understand, how are you monetizing a blog like that? It's writing related articles to a subject and then affiliate links, or are you selling
affiliate
something?
Links to Amazon. So anytime that they would click on an Amazon link, that I would get a commission from their purchase. One of the great things about Amazon affiliates is it is also based on purchases made in a time period.
Sure.
Of using your link.
Sure. I love it. I'm also an Amazon affiliate for YouTube, and it's like I'll check the purchase history, and it's like someone looked at a camera that I was reviewing, but then they ended up buying like a refrigerator that's like $4,000, and it's like, okay, now I got a little chunk of that.
Christmas is money.
Yeah. The weirdest one I had was someone bought a silver coin that was like $4,000 silver coin or some like collector's item.
What?
So I got a percentage of that. I was like, okay, whatever. So it's kind of interesting the ways people do that. So it's kind of cool.
It is.
So let's jump back in here. You're selling everything. It goes up to the VP. What do they present to you to try to keep you to stay?
Yeah. So the VP offered me instant raise. I could take 2 months paid vacation to go travel and come back. I could get a transfer in 6 months to the international office of my choice. And he offered to buy me bedroom furniture because I told him I was sleeping on an air mattress because I'd already sold everything.
And you still said, to hell with you? I love it. This episode is brought to you by my company, Snod Media Group. Do you like the look and sound of this podcast? Of course you do. It's awesome. There are a ton of benefits to having a podcast. Sharing content online, networking with high-value people, and being a voice in your industry, and the list goes on. If your dreams of starting a podcast have quickly turned into nightmares, realizing how much stuff you have to learn and understand to get a published episode out every single week, I'm here to tell you that I can make your dreams come true. As long as those dreams are podcast related. We are now taking rentals for our podcast room here in the Snod Media Group studio. Gone are the days of spending thousands of dollars and setting up all of your professional camera equipment and probably screwing it up, learning how to capture and produce a professional level show, and probably screwing it up, learning professional video editing, posting social clips on social media, having a distribution calendar, the whole 9 yards. It sounds like a lot because, frankly, it is. And let's face it, who has time to do all that stuff anyway? My team and I, that's who. Let us take all of the stress of creating content off of your plate. Simply come in, sit down, record your episode, and leave. A couple days later, you'll have all of your files sent directly to your inbox. It really is that simple. Our quiet studio off the beaten path in Granger, Iowa comes complete with soundproofed walls, as you can see here, wood backdrops, as well as a neutral backdrop, and professional lighting. Utilize over $20,000 worth of camera, audio, and lighting equipment with this turnkey space. You can not only use this podcast room, but other parts of our studio to capture social media content or more conversational pieces as well. We have 3 different packages that can suit your needs and your budget. So let's bring those podcast dreams to reality. For more information about starting your very own podcast here at the studio, visit snodmedia.com/podcast. Now let's get back to the interview. So was any of that like interesting to you? I mean, it sounded like they really wanted to keep you because most people would say, oh, we're sad to see you go. Like, we'll throw a cake party in the conference room.
Don't let the door kick you on the way out.
Yeah, like we'll have a pizza party. Thanks for your years of service. Like this seems like they really needed to keep you or wanted to keep you. Did that sway your decision at all, or had you already committed mentally that I'm doing this?
I mean, I think that anytime another option is put in front of you, you are weighing the pros and cons, right? So, there was a flicker of this would be an easy route.
Yeah,
of course. But I also knew, oh man, look at how hard I worked to get here. I'm always going to wonder what would have happened, right? Yeah. So it was more on myself. Like if I take that easy route, then what experiences am I not giving the opportunity to have? Sure.
So in your mind's eye, when you said no to that, your short-term goal was to keep doing the online stuff. Did you want to be like a digital nomad, like
yes,
travel?
It was in the height of the 5-hour work week.
Yep.
Yes, yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I have a couple friends. We had Lee Robinson on episode 3, I think, and he also lives in Granger, which is kind of funny. But he was doing software development for like Hy-Vee, Workiva, and he was like, he did the WeWork thing for like 3 months where you're in a new place every 2 weeks, and he was in like Bali, and then he was in like Asia and like Europe and Africa, like all these. It's like that's such a cool thing. And that was really the craze, like you said, like pre-pandemic, that was like the thing to do.
It was.
Yeah. So you'd say see you later. You pack your bags. Where's the first place you go? And what was that first launch phase like for you?
Yeah, first place was Dublin. That's actually one of the cheapest airports to get into Europe with, if you fly into Dublin, and then you can get cheaper flights connecting.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Put that one in the back of my head.
Exactly. Started off in Dublin, and I didn't have a plan. I didn't have here's where I'm going to go next. And that was my purpose, right? I'm a planner by heart. And so I needed that, you're going to need to figure it out on the go. And so I would look at Skyscanner. I'd put my location and put the destination as everywhere. And then I would find, hey, where's the next cheapest flight? And that's where I would go. Or I became a professional cat sitter. So I would live in people's houses and take care of their pets while they were on vacation, try to get gigs like that. I also started a travel blog and would work with tour companies in exchange for trips. And to help them market what they're doing, and just kind of tried to make it work. I made myself live on $50 a day. That had to include housing, food, and transportation. So I really gave myself restrictions. But that $20K plus the money that I was making hustling, I was able to make it last for over 3 years.
That's insane. So what's like your biggest, I would say, like travel hack in terms of saving money abroad that most people don't think to do? Because you like being really restrictive, that's got to be, you had to really think that through. You know, you're not like, oh, I'm going to go get breakfast and go get a drink and go out for lunch. It's like, well, there goes all your money, like right your whole daily allotment. Yeah,
absolutely. There's so many things. I kind of had almost a ritual or a recipe when I got to a new city. So I would, one, go to the grocery store. If I was going to eat out, it would be for lunch, not for dinner. It's always more expensive. I would go on a free walking tour. And that's where there's a local or, somebody that is gregarious and knows the city, and they walk you around the town, show them favorite spots. You meet people that are also traveling. And so I would always try to add that in, and I would make connections, kind of get a lay of the land in the town, and then go from there. But I was always kind of the annoying American at the front asking the tour guide all these questions. Oh, but what about when this happened in World War II?
Right.
And they're like, what?
Yeah, and all the people with their little earpiece are like, what did she say? They're all from other places. So you did it for 3 years. Mm-hmm. That's insane. What was the biggest challenge that you had in that time? Were you like homesick ever? Did you have like things that you wish you could have done while you were abroad, or was it just you just loved the whole thing?
So I think the biggest thing was learning about myself and what I need. So I learned that as an extrovert, I need people around me and that energy to stay up, but I can also have too much of that. So I learned that, okay, 3 days on, 3 days off, as long as I have, something planned, especially when you're house sitting in rural parts, and you kind of have to think a little bit more ahead to get socialized. Mm-hmm. So I would kind of plan around that and always have, someone I was going to hang out with from either that free walking tour or had met online or from a connection.
Sure. That's really cool. What are some of the standout moments or things that you did that were outside of the just being frugal to try and scrape it by? What were some of the things that really stood out to you as like awesome experiences that you'll take with you to the grave that were so fun?
Yeah. Berlin, hands down, was probably one of my best experiences. I maxed out the Schengen zone. So if you've ever traveled to Europe, you have X number of days that you can stay within the European country without needing a visa. So, and then you have to leave. So what I did is I rented an apartment for 3 months in Berlin. My best friend, who also he's the one that taught me SEO and being a digital nomad. He also came to Berlin for those same 3 months. We basically co-worked. We're building our business. We also had a German friend that was living there. So we would all just kind of hang out at coffee shops, build our business. My dance teacher, who actually just passed away in December, she introduced me to her younger sister who was living in Berlin. And I created this amazing connection with a local. Susan was able to give me a walking tour of Berlin, but from the perspective of when the wall was still up. And I was so fortunate to hear her story of getting somebody over to the other side of the wall during that time. And those two that she was able to escape are now happily together living in the U.S.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. So you're finishing up your third year. You've been traveling everywhere. At what point did you decide you were ready to come back to the States?
Yeah, I kind of went through peaks and valleys, getting a little bit burnt out and needing to come back and crash on my parents' couch in Granger, pick up more clients, and then hit the road again. And so it was kind of a journey. I got really burnt out towards the end. It was also around when my paternal grandmother was passing, and I wasn't there, and I had to go home, and it was just kind of a moment where I thought, I could put down some roots. I could build something with a little bit more stability, and I think I can do that. And so that's kind of where KinseyCo, my first company that I had started, began to grow.
That's really cool. So explain to me what was KinseyCo when you first started it? Because it was super. I think that's when I first met you as you're growing that business. Tell us a little bit about what that was.
Yeah, so KinseyCo was basically web design. We did a lot of websites and digital products. And kind of the differentiator that I was trying to go for was working specifically with women in developing countries to give them business opportunities to grow their professional careers. And that was great. I got to meet so many people, and it really challenged my creativity and brought me into the UX aspect of my career. One of the challenges was I was a solo founder, and so I would get all these projects in and all this revenue, but then I would also have to complete the work. And so as soon as that project was done, well, my pipeline is empty. So I had to hurry up and go and rustle up more. And so it was kind of this, again, very bumpy ride. And it just so happenstance that I was kind of feeling that burnout. I was gone for a month in November, and this is right before the pandemic happened. So 2020, I think. Yep. So it was November. I was keynote speaker at World Women's Entrepreneurship Day in Minsk, Belarus, which we can't get into Minsk, Belarus right now. So I was speaking. My speech was translated into multiple languages. Everybody had headsets on, hearing the translation live. And I stopped in Istanbul, came back, stayed with my parents for Thanksgiving in Breckenridge, Colorado. And, my mom said something to me. I was sitting in the recliner working with my laptop, and she goes, "Colleen, you don't seem happy." And that sunk with me, and the way the world turns, I also was realizing that. And, when your mom says something to you, it makes you realize it even more because they know you. You are them also in some respect. One of my clients that I was doing web design for, they reached out and said, "Hey, we need you. We need you to completely redesign the front end of our software. And when are you back in Iowa so that we can have salary conversations?" And so it was just, I had decided in one hand that maybe this wasn't for me. And then this opportunity just immediately came about. And looking back on that, I am so grateful for that because not only did it propel my experience and my career in UX and marketing, but it was also right before the pandemic happened. And with KinseyCo, all of my leads were from in-person marketing. So I would have starved. Sure.
It's such an interesting story because you had this mission behind it. Because I know when we talked for the first time, I want to say, it's coming back to me. I want to say we had a networking meetup at Fuzzy's Tacos or something downtown. Does that ring a bell?
Yes. Okay. Or the coffee shop next to it.
Yes. And that for some, it took me 30 freaking minutes to remember how we met. But I remember you telling me about this, and I'm like, I could totally see when you're prospecting, if you find the right lead, just telling that mission of empowering third world women to like have jobs and a skill set and building this whole thing out. Like I could see how easily that could sell. And I'm like, that's such an awesome idea, like how you're doing that. What was kind of the thought process behind that? Because how many people did you have on your team when you decided this might not be the thing that's making me the happiest anymore?
I had about 6 regular full-time contractors.
Okay. And like, give me the rundown. Where in the world were those people?
Yeah, they were in India, Belarus, Poland, and I think Lithuania.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. So as we're going through that conversation, I mean, you're experiencing the burnout. Did you attempt to try to do like recurring services where you're doing like website management, all these different things? Because when I worked in that world, I saw kind of the dark side of that where you build a website for 20 grand, but then you keep them on a contract for like $5 grand maintenance fee. Mm-hmm. And anytime you want to update a banner picture or change any headline text, like they're going to charge you hourly plus that maintenance fee. So it's kind of like this black hole of death where it's like, we'll just never update our website because it costs too much money, but we're locked into this retainer agreement that does nothing for us. You know, did you ever consider doing that, or did you try some of those models? Because I feel like that's the only way you can really have recurring revenue as a design company. Yeah.
So I did do recurring support for monthly maintenance, but I'm going to be honest with you, Ryan. Looking back on it, I undervalued a lot of my services. And, you know, I tied a lot of my own personal worth with the pricing that I was putting on our output. And looking back on that now, I mean, that was also one of the biggest detriments of my business failure because I let my own head get in the way of that.
Sure. So as you're kind of preparing for that exit, and it's super interesting too, like we talked about this before we started, like most entrepreneurs you'll talk to, it's like all sunshine and roses and it's up and to the right for all the time and there's no hardship or anything. What was some of the lessons that you learned or the moments when you're like, I think it's time for me to switch this up and change it, and swallowing that and being like, this is happening and we got to move forward? Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah. So one of the things when I'm in that is first off, I always look at what is within my control. What can I control that will help me? So one, savings, money. How can I build a nest egg? I don't know. There's so many things, but I felt like having a good support system also would have been great. Not just friends, but having fellow entrepreneurs and business owners. I was, leaning on sharing those trials and tribulations with my friends and family, but, they don't always have that same business owner mindset. My sister would be like, well, we'll just go get a job. I'm like, no, that's giving up. Mm-hmm. But when I did start at the full-time W-2, I'm going to be honest, I totally had an identity crisis. I didn't know how to introduce myself anymore because I'd always been, I'm the founder, of this great thing. And it took me, I was a really long time to kind of come to terms with that. But during that time, I just kind of kept replaying, and this is probably very unhealthy thinking, but I kept replaying my mistakes and my failures and thinking about what could I have done differently. And those 3 years, that's what I was thinking about. And I couldn't stop. And I knew that I had to jump back in and rip that Band-Aid off because otherwise it was just going to keep swirling in my mind. Sure.
No, that's super interesting because I think to your point, it can be a lonely road, especially if you're on that road by yourself. Did you ever plug into the Des Moines entrepreneurship ecosystem, or were you just kind of like roughing it by yourself? Like, did you ever seek companionship or seek mentorship or community outside of that?
I did, and it was through a lot of female-focused networking groups. And to be honest, I don't go that path anymore. I really appreciate diversity regardless of gender in thoughts and conversation and networking. And I almost kind of steer clear from that now. Just different energies, different perspectives, and having diverse sets of mindsets. is helpful.
Sure. No, I love that. What do you think is like in a general sense, what is the female focused entrepreneurship group different than the all-inclusive or just all the dudes in a room together? Like what's the difference that you saw in both of those and why you chose to go the latter option?
Yeah, well, I think it also depends on groups and the people involved, obviously. But a lot of the patterns that I saw were, the kind of the cattiness.
Right.
I don't know how to make that sound less direct, but that's what it is. And also that phony success.
Right.
Like
cruise up in a leased Beamer and you got your pantsuit on. You're like, I'm about to go bankrupt, but I got to put on a front to impress these people that don't even know who I am.
Or the way that people approach you. Like I'm instantly turned off if the first thing that you're going to talk to me about is what you're trying to sell me.
Right.
I would rather somebody have a real authentic conversation with me. And then if business comes into that, great. Mm-hmm. But I want to get to know you as a person. And if you're going to come up to me and the first thing you're going to do is talk to me about your MLM, I'm out.
Sure. No, I totally get that. I found myself in the similar situation. I was doing different networking groups when I first got into my career. And it was like, there were so many of them that like you said, there's the local insurance guy or a car salesman or a fill in the blank that just comes up and they just start pitching you and you're like, what's your name? Like you didn't even, or someone's like, hi, what do you drive? And I'm like, what? Like my car? Like, yeah, what do you drive? And I tell them, do you like it? I'm like, yeah. Well, if that ever changes, here's my card. And they walk away and I'm like, what is your name? Who the hell are you? Like you just have these really weird transactional conversations with people.
Yeah.
It's like not what a networking group is, It's like trying to figure that out.
But there is hope out there. Okay. So I've really gotten into Rotary. Okay. It's not just your grandfather's networking club. What I love about Rotary is I've been able to travel with it. So when I've been abroad in a city, I can look up, hey, when and where is the next Rotary meeting, and have a network of like-minded people that want to give and help first.
Sure. I love that. Finding the right things are good. Like I know the one in Des Moines that I refer a lot of people to is The Loop, if you've heard of that. Mm-hmm. It's like Ryan Dozer and Dallas Downing and all those guys that do that because they're all my age, like late 20s that are really into that stuff. But it's never like – it's always value focused because they've made it for that purpose. Like we're tired of these terrible sales focused networking groups. So I always tell people to go and check them out. So if you're listening or watching those guys, The Loop, Des Moines, they got a good group there. So okay, so you're kind of – going through this process with your company, did they know you were planning to go back? Was it obvious to them or was it another big surprise bomb? Like they're like, we'll do anything to keep you when you told them, I'm going to dip back in and start doing entrepreneurship again?
I was towing that line and not very gracefully. There were some conversations with the boss and how I present myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and as someone who had been building their personal brand for many years, that was hard. Whilst also going through an identity crisis, no big deal.
Sure.
But as I was working there, I also kind of began to have that feeling like, oh, I think, that time may be coming. And so again, what can I control? I can control how I show up at work. I can control the safety net that I can create for myself, and I can start making a plan. And one of the great things that I did, I have to shout out to Erin Lego Coaching. I worked with this amazing woman who also kind of helped me to navigate my own thoughts on, I was terrified to go back to being an entrepreneur because I had failed. But I still can't stop thinking about it. And so she really helped me to think through that and with my leadership styles and what do I really want. So shout out to her, helped me through a very difficult time. But, I got to the point where it was like, okay, I think it's time. We all left on good terms, was able to get kind of the team in a good place. I was managing both the UX team and the marketing team at that time. So advocating for raises, those types of things, trying to leave things on a really good term. And I remember my boyfriend was terrified. He was like, you do not quit a job until you have something lined up. And I'm like, it's going to be okay.
He's thinking, I don't have enough money to support, but come on, man, get something lined up for my sake, please.
And it always turns out great. So, you know, in the behind the scenes, while I was doing all of those things, I was still staying connected with my business partner in Poland. And that's when we took KinseyCo and his development agency, and that's where we created Softvoya. It's a totally made-up name. Trying to think of short for software voyage.
Sure. I got it. That was my first thought. So that,
good.
I was like, interesting, because sometimes I use apps like software, and I'm like, that's a completely made up name. Yours seems like there's actually some words behind that. It's a what'd you call it? A conjunction or a shortened version of two words. So
I'm just thinking of conjunction function now.
What's
song.
Your function?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just a Bill. Yeah. Now I'm like back in third grade watching the little animated Bill walk up the steps of the
Take me back.
Right.
Where were we?
Right. We're talking about how your company's name was created. So Software Voyage, right?
Yes.
That's the combination there.
Yep. And, you know, as I was thinking about those failures in the past, one of the things was I need a solid co-founder. Having a co-founder is not for everybody, but I knew for me, I needed somebody that could play to my strengths and be the other half of where my weaknesses were.
So, and you would say to pause that for a second, because that's a huge piece of this too. I know just from what I've talked to people that are out there, like, I think I would really struggle with having a co-founder personally, because if you start to split, you have to be unified in that vision and kind of go forward. What's kind of your personality / leadership style, and where do they complement that? So then you guys are a better, stronger bond than just two of you butting heads constantly doing what you do best.
Yeah. It's so funny because our design team has little animations of each of our profiles. And I think if you just compared those two next to each other, you would have all your answers. So I am very energetic, bubbly, gregarious. I love hearing new ideas, figuring out how can we build something from this based on the constraints. Like, there's always 3 constraints in a project: budget, timeline, scope. So how do we work with that? Whereas my business partner, he is very process. What are our numbers? What are all of our tasks created on time and completed? What is our revenue and all of those benchmarks? Whereas I'm very much more the creative ideas, the sales, the marketing, and he's the operations.
Sure. I love that. So we start the company. You started this after you left your business, right? Or after you left your job, sorry.
Yeah, maybe like while I was in it.
Oh, sure. I would suggest that's the best route to go, because you want to have something lined up. It's like, that takes time to get LLCs created and get your bank account set up and all that stuff. No, I totally get that. I also, similar path. Like, I was doing my business part-time until I left my agency job, and it was not super secretive either, because it's like, we go to networking
when you're
events.
In marketing.
Well, when someone goes to networking events, what do you do? It's like, well, that's kind of a loaded question. I work here, but I also have this other business. And then it would keep coming back to people like, hey, you're at this networking event talking about yourself. I'm like, it's not just like that, though. It's like, it's in a conversation that was 12 minutes long that eventually, like, oh, but I also do this outside of work, like, I don't know.
And working for a Des Moines company too. It's a small town.
Yeah, things get back. So you've launched the company. What's kind of the vision for it, and how is it different than KinseyCo? And it's not the same offering, correct? It's something new. Yeah,
we're really focusing on digital product development. So what that looks like is custom software, mobile apps, minimum viable products. So if you don't know what an MVP is, I actually like to use the term most valuable product. So what is the smallest, most valuable piece of anything that you can ship and that people will pay for?
Sure. To prove concept that people will pay for it, buy it, that type of thing.
Yep.
I know in my world, it was like online courses. That's what I did with my stuff, was like, I had this idea for a course. It's going to be 200 lessons. It's going to take me a year to make it. Can I make a mini course and pre-sell it before I even hit record, and like prove, would my email list buy this, or would my Facebook group or my YouTube channel, would they buy it? And like, that's just a way, if people are listening, like, I don't know what the hell an MVP is. That's like a build it, prove it before, build it, not build it before they come, but like sell it before you build it. and understand that people can use
validate.
Exactly, get validation, but not from your grandma that's like, that would be a great idea.
Oh, it's amazing.
Or you ask your friends over drinks and like, that would totally sell. Like you need to like talk to the ideal customer and be like, would this solve your problem? Would you pay for it or not?
Exactly. And so with Softvoya, what we're doing is on one end, we are augmenting staff. So offering front end, back end, full stack developers, UX designers, product owners that can help tech companies ship code. Working in a number of tech stacks, you can basically like handpick your team based on the skill level and technology that you're looking for, even experience. And then as we were doing this, I started to see a big gap in our market for our entrepreneurs. So I kept seeing how entrepreneurs were trying to build mobile apps, software, but spending so much on unvalidated ideas. And it made me mad because if you think about it, if we could lower the barrier of entry for entrepreneurs to try and test new ideas, think about the innovative world that we could live in. So let's say, Ryan, you have a mobile app idea and you go to an agency and they're like, yeah, that's probably going to be like $50K. And you're like, whew, I'm not sure how am I going to do that? You know, like, do I take a loan out? Do I do this? Well, okay, what if you could create that same idea without any code for $5K and then go test it? You could then there's no code involved. It's just kind of the curtains of what your app would look like. But then you can take that to investors. You can take that to early adopters. You can start getting feedback before you spend money on development. Validate that your idea is what they want. I feel like one of the biggest ways that we fail as business owners is assuming and not having the numbers and the data to back up our roadmap.
No, I love that because I think of like when I was at Simpson, where I went to college, we had our senior capstone seminar class was building a company in like 6 months and launch it in 6 months and get that validation of the market value fit, all that stuff. We had an alumni come in that they had, a group of them, 5 of them had started an app called Hang, and it was an app that helped people get together in real life. So it was like organizing events, like movies, whatever. Their monetization strategy was cool though, because if they got people to go to a movie and you could track it, the movie theater would give them a kickback, and that's how they made money from it. Mm-hmm. Really, really cool app idea. They would come to our class and be like, dink with it, tell us how to fix it, whatever. And I think the big thing was like, is there a need for this app in the first place? Or are people just using social media as this you can make a post on any social platform, be like, hey, we're getting together for yoga in the park, make an event on Facebook and it's over, Yeah. So I think that's the story that hits my mind because it failed, and a lot of apps do. But it's like, if they could have just gotten that clear, like, market value, like, is there a real fit in the marketplace for what you need? And then, like you said, go get investors, go get the stuff, go to the movie theater and say, hey, if we could get 50 more people to come to this movie, what percentage of kickback could you give us? And then prove the concept out. Right.
So, Ryan, have you ever heard of the event called Techstars Startup Weekend?
I think you told me about it. So, let's talk about it.
Okay. So this is, if anybody is ever like looking, okay, how do I even validate my idea? Exactly like what you're talking about. Check out a startup weekend. So this is kind of a crazy story. Back, I think it was maybe just May of last year, I was at a networking event and talking to a few people, and they were saying, oh, we haven't had a startup weekend here in Des Moines in 7 years. I'm like, what's Startup Weekend? I don't even know what it is. And so these people then introduced me to my now friend, Brandon Rocco, and we were thinking about co-organizing one here in Des Moines. And I was like, well, okay, I'm not going to sign my name on the dotted line just yet. I need to actually experience one before I go and organize this huge event. Mm-hmm. So we went to Startup Weekend, Iowa City. It was right after EntreFest in June of last year. And basically the essence of Startup Weekend is it's a Friday through Sunday hackathon for creating a business and a pitch. So on Friday, everybody comes, they pitch their idea. people are voting on what do they think are the ideas that are going to be the most successful. Then teams are formed. So what ideas are you drawn to or do you think are going to be successful, whether it's your idea or someone else's? And teams are formed. They do customer discovery almost all day on Saturday. So they're going outside and talking to people and basically trying to validate that they have a problem that needs to be solved. Then on Sunday, they pitch they have, I think, 3 or 4 minutes to pitch their business idea to a panel. And there's a first, second, and third place. So went to the Iowa City one, and I always kind of had an idea in the back of my head around end-of-life planning, kind of that process, because after both my grandmothers passed, my mom was the executor. And even though she has her MBA, she works in statistics, she's very financially literate, has worked many jobs. She, with the grief, was also struggling to close an estate, which takes so much longer just after the funeral. So I always had kind of this thought, like, I can't believe there's not something out there for someone going through this problem. And so I pitched my idea. You won't believe this, but the guy next to me had the same idea.
No way.
And he had flown from Arizona to Iowa City.
That's like, you got to work together on this
for this
now.
weekend.
That's crazy.
And it's so funny because before, like, everybody's networking and talking, and both of us are silent. We're not leaking the idea, right? We're serious about this. So his name is Paul H. Richardson Jr. Him and I team up. We are building our pitch, work together all weekend on it, do tons and tons of customer discovery, which we find out even more information. And turns out we get first place. One of the mentors from the weekend is now one of our advisors who's been helping us and coaching us. Thank you, Alex Taylor. And so that was just from one weekend. Paul has since moved here to Des Moines.
Wow.
He's living in Des Moines. We got Iowa Economic Development's proof of commercial realization, a small commercial loan for $50K in January. And we also just got into the Global Insurance Accelerator. So this idea from one quick weekend is now catapulting into a business. And we then went and hosted Startup Weekend Des Moines here in January, which now I know don't have an event in January in Iowa because you're going to have a blizzard.
Yeah.
No matter how many bets you put out. But it was absolutely amazing. We had, I think, like 90 people joining us virtually and in person. We were out at Maple Studios shoveling snow, jumping cars that were dead, and building businesses. And one of the most amazing things is the first place winner with Techstars, we're not able to give a cash prize. So we tried to build a prize package that was really like what could take this idea to the next step. So we got incorporation packages sponsored. Softvoya was able to do a clickable prototype with the discovery phase, feasibility study, logo, branding, all of this stuff from different companies in our community were donated. The best part, though, is that 2 of our judges asked permission to personally invest in that person's startup.
Sure. That's really cool. It's just super interesting, like putting like asking the what if and getting together and really saying like, we're just going to ruminate on this idea, dig into it, see if it's actually viable. Because I think when you told me about this app idea, I'm like, I could see it being a home run because it's like everyone dies. That's the only guarantee in life besides taxes and death, right? That's like the 2 things. But I think it's a really cool idea because my mom was an executor for multiple estates. She always gets that fun job she's the most responsible person in the family. Here, take this on. But I could only imagine like having wills that are in there, having end-of-life planning. Do you want to be cremated, buried, what, all that stuff. And if people don't think about it, which most people don't, that's a huge stress on people of like, what would grandma want? What would mom or dad or brother or sister want? having that organized and in one place makes a lot of sense to do that.
Right. And so as we're kind of talking about like different tools and resources that you can use in the community to build your idea, another one that really helped us was Venture School with the John Papa John Center through University of Iowa. So through that, we were able to do even more customer discovery and made a massive pivot because of that. And so I would highly recommend checking out Startup Weekend, looking into Venture School. Those are some really great ways to validate your idea before you start quitting your job, dumping tens of thousands of dollars into your business.
Sure. Yeah. And I think in my industry too, like, so I'm really plugged into like the video production world. Like I put a lot of content out and that type of thing. I've had many people come to me that have been like, hey, I have this idea for a CRM backend. Cause right now I use like a stack of software, you know, it's like 10 different softwares to kind of run my business. So there's been people that have gone out and like made an all-in-one software. They're like, build your website, host your videos on there. You do your CRM, your invoicing, your payment processing, like everything in one thing. And I've almost switched to it, and then they go out of business, or they run out of funding, or they get acquired and snuffed or whatever. So I just had another call last week with another tool that just came out, but I know they're going to actually take it to completion because they've got funding. They're in the online education space, so they have a lot of money coming in from that they can pump back into this new concept. And similar to your business where you struggled, it was we get a sale on a course membership and we can't make money from that person again. So now on the back end, we can sell the software membership and you have a software as a service, monthly recurring revenue. As you know, there's value in that too. So I think before we can take a step back from the end of life planning app, because I think that's something we really want to dig into, but talk about Softvoya. When you started, it was you and your co-founder. Where are you guys at now in terms of growth, the plans for the future, and that type of thing? Yeah.
So my co-founder with Softvoya, Valeri, we got his green card. So he's now living in the U.S. He's in Charlotte with his family, which I'm super thrilled about, us both being stateside. We're looking, we have some big goals for the next couple of years, including building our stateside employees. So we have about 75 employees in our Poland office.
Wow.
And so bringing some of that talent within our processes here in the U.S.
Sure. So how did you go from 0 to 75 workers that are working on that side in Poland? Obviously, him being from there, he might maybe have had some hand in that, but walk me through that process of growing a team like that.
Yeah. So I have to give all of the kudos to Valeri on that. He has been building his agency, now our agency, since 2016. And so building the right leaders and putting the right people in place to support the team, but also process is key. I saw this hilarious meme the other day of somebody trying to pour mustard into a mustard container, and then all you had to do was unscrew the pointy tip and put it upside down into it. So long story short, finding the right talent and the people and creating the tools so that they can succeed at what they do without the minutia.
Sure. How many people did he have on that team before you came on board? Were all 75 there? Did he have like half of them, and then you guys started aggressively growing once you had this new model?
I think we had about 50. We did grow up to about 90. We cut back a few. We took kind of reassessed a few technologies that we were supporting and decided to sunset a few. And so it's been, a little bit of a trajectory, but I have to compliment our HR team who handle everything beautifully. Like the other day, my chief product owner and I had kind of a rough week, and I just appreciated him so much, and he loves fishing. So I called our HR person, and she found a fishing pack that you could purchase in Poland that I was able to send him.
Oh, that's very cool. It's hard to like have that culture and connection when you're literally across the world, because I know we've had other conversations about company culture and how you do that, and that's really cool that you're trying to make efforts to make people feel validated, they feel heard, seen, appreciated. That's always super powerful. What's the vision for Softvoya as you guys grow it in the next couple of years? You mentioned wanting to get more people stateside. This really cool idea of having this like MVP service, I think is such a good opening, like your free trial or your low barrier offer that you can get someone in, prove the concept. They feel much more confident to spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars with your company to build out a software stack. Explain to me the growth plan for the company?
Yeah. So I think that we have kind of two different areas that we're trying to grow. Obviously, that startup area, because we can help them grow, but also give them multiple options. You know, I think when you're trying to go down that technology development path, there are a lot of wayward ways that you can take. But looking at, okay, this decision is going to get me here versus this one's going to get me here. And then on the other side, basically from the entrepreneur side, I really want to be kind of like the startup superheroes. How can we help get those great ideas out there and also protect those venture capital investments? You know, they don't want to be seeing their money strewn away to different development agencies. They want to see the product live, functioning, and revenue. And then on the other end, working on those working with those tech companies to help them ship code. I think that as we're going into this economy, people are looking at, okay, how can we do more with less? And being able to have product teams that already have processes in place for delivering and shipping code regularly, or being able to adapt to internal processes to enhance your team. One of the favorite things that we like to do is kind of doing the boring stuff. So when you have a tech agency or a software company, your in-house engineers, they're not going to be excited about those upgrades, those security things that you have to do, the infrastructure updates. Those aren't sexy and exciting. How do you keep those people that are in-house motivated to work on the cool new stuff? Well, give us the boring stuff. We don't mind.
Sure. I love it. It's super interesting too because when you guys started growing the company, I'm assuming you guys had, for Softvoya, did you have like investors initially and kind of getting that
Bootstrap,
going?
baby.
Bootstrapped it? Okay. What's the goal in terms of like 3 to 5 years? Is there like a number of clients you want to reach? Is there kind of a pie in the sky? Are you guys whiteboard people that have like the fill in the eraser board? Like what's kind of your guys' goal you're reaching for?
So it's going to be money, Bob Key.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Just having a revenue goal, that's always key.
Yeah.
I love it.
So trying to grow that, building our office here, and really getting into more of those corporate tech areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was shooting a video for CBRE, the real estate company. There was this really cool like agency type office on the square downtown. Like it literally looks out over Papa John Sculpture Park. And the company that was there before left all their furniture. And it's like a turnkey agency, and there's this cool spiral staircase, and like I'll have to show you pictures of it.
I was like, to see that.
I was like, this would be the coolest place for like a tech startup, but they needed like numbers because you can fit like over 100 people in there if you wanted to, and there's like
right downtown too.
Yeah, it's literally like you could just get your name, like your huge signage right there, like right next to like Flynn Wright and Krause Gateway, like all the super
I know
cool.
what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so I was in there because they left it furnished, and we shot all their interviews in there because we're like, this looks like a cool place, and it's turnkey. It's a really cool area. So I'll have to show you where that address is because as you're growing, I'm like, I could totally see your business in there. That could be really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put a pin in that business. We'll go back to the end of life business. What's the name of it? What is?
Oh yeah, I didn't mention that.
No.
So it's called Tumbleweed.
Okay.
And the name came from Paul was driving cross country to celebrate the end of life for his grandparents after the pandemic, and he kept seeing tumbleweeds blowing across the road. And what's interesting when you think about generational wealth, tumbleweeds are actually reseeding the earth as they're rolling across the plains.
That's so deep. I love that. It just makes me think of a Western, like,
right? I know.
You just have all your theme.
Howdy,
like,
partner.
Yeah. We know you put you 6 feet under, but we got your funeral plans right here. Like, yeah, right. Fastest gun in the West. I love it. Okay, let's put a pause in this. We can start what we like to call the lightning round. So we're going to do some quick questions for Colleen. Get all the answers to you. We'll jump back into your story here in a second. This will give you a break from everything. It'll help us get to know you a little bit better too. Okay. 1-word answers if you want. 5-minute answers if you want. There's no rules here. We just go with what sounds good. Of all the places you visited in those 3 years, what was your favorite country that you went to?
Well, So it's unfortunate because I already talked so much about Berlin, but Berlin is my favorite. I also love...
That's in Germany, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Germans. They are very direct. They're always on time. Well, I wasn't on time today. Sorry, Ryan.
That's okay.
I almost showed up with a coffee, but I was like, nah, you can't be that basic.
Sure. No worries. I'm also German, so yeah, I appreciate it. Snod is it should just be SNOD. Make my life so much easier, but it's SNAADT. Some extra sauerkraut on the top of that one. Cool. What did you want to be in third grade? What was what do you want to be when you grew up when you were in third grade?
I wanted to be Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, and that evolved into I want to be a boss. Literal words from child Colleen's mouth.
Okay. That's awesome. Would your third grade self be surprised, proud, scared of what you do now? Like, what would your third grade self think of your career choices now, where you're at?
She'd be like, yeah, bitch.
You're the boss, babe. You did it. You're doing your thing. That's awesome. What advice would you give your third grade self that you wish you would have known as you're growing up in terms of like life advice or I mean, you take all these chances and risks and do all this crazy shit. Like, what would you tell your third grade self about life as an adult now?
Oof. It's going to be okay. I feel like I worried about everything as a kid, like, will I find my partner? Will someone love me? Will I be successful? Will I like my job?
Right.
It's going to be okay.
Sure. It seems like as you got older, you just said, screw it, throw it to the wind, like quitting without a cause. I'm traveling for 3 years. I'm starting this company. I'm just doing whatever.
Right.
Life
and if I were to give advice to my 16 to 26-year-old self, I would say, quit putting energy into boys that won't commit.
Hey, there you go. Put that on a bumper sticker. Right? I like that one. I like that. What's the best kept secret of building a company from scratch that you've experienced?
Grit.
Expand on that. What does that mean for you?
I think you just got to lean into hustling, to grinding, to know that it's going to be hard. I think if you have the mindset of it's not going to be easy, you surprise yourself.
I love that. We can put all these on a bumper sticker. We can start a bumper sticker company in the back of this place. Favorite business book or podcast you'd recommend for founders that want to get plugged into an ecosystem or learn a process to build a company?
So I am not a book. I love books, but when I read books, I want to get lost in a story. So I don't really read business books.
Sure.
Are
you a podcast person?
I listen to yours.
Oh, thank you. We got one subscriber. Thank you.
I listen to Ben McDougall's too.
Okay.
I love both of those.
Sure. And his is a good one because it's all founders and entrepreneurship and startups. So that's great.
Yes. But I would say, kind of flipping your question, I would say finding the right networking events.
Okay.
1 Million Cups, for example, you get to hear a new business pitch every single week over a cup of coffee.
Yep.
Great way to meet people, but also see what other people are doing. And those ideas can make you think, oh, but what if I tried this? Or yes, and.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I know I enjoyed going, one, because you can always give advice and it's easier to give advice than take advice. Mm-hmm. So you can always poke holes in someone's business model and be like, oh, I would suggest this or that. And then you get up on stage and then you're like, crap, I also have a lot of things that need to work. So, okay. So last thing was, favorite thing to do outside of work. We've talked a lot about career stuff. What's your favorite hobby or interest that you like to do outside of work?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm not going to say travel because I feel like that's kind of a given. You know, everybody says that.
Yeah.
I like to give back.
Okay.
I do Big Brothers Big Sisters. I also like to hang out with friends, see when people, maybe need a little pick-me-up. I love to try new things. I recently got into oil painting.
Okay.
Just watched a YouTube video and
Bob Ross in it?
Yeah, Bob Ross in it over here. Yeah. Though I wasn't happy when I got orange paint all over my Lululemon pants.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I'm always just trying new things and trying to learn new things.
God, I love that. That's great. That concludes the lightning round. You can now take a deep breath.
I was hoping you were going to ask me what my dream car was.
Oh, yeah. What's your dream car?
Wrong answer. It's a 1970s mint condition RV trailer.
Okay, like Winnebago or
Yeah,
Airstream or
Airstream.
Airstream style. I like it.
That would be my dream.
Sure. Like get the nice shiny buff, get the shine on that silver on the
Yeah,
outside.
like if they had orange or green appliances.
Okay. Do you like, is it Smeg? Is that the appliances that it looks like it's from the 70s?
Yeah.
Those are coming back. Like every house has a Smeg refrigerator. It's like $10,000 for a
Which is
icebox.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like just the thing, you know? Like you could spend that and have a smart fridge with a camera in it. You could check it at the store and be like, oh, I need milk because I can look in my camera now. Okay. Any other questions you wish I would have asked you?
No.
Okay.
But I was driving up here on 141 and I was like, okay, I don't have a dream car. What would that be?
Sure. You're ready for the lightning round. I love it. And the questions are always different. I always mix it up on people. Sometimes I don't even do a lightning round. I really just put the mix on people. Okay. So we're coming up on the end here. I think it'd be really interesting to hear your perception on female entrepreneurship because you mentioned you've done the networking events. It's a different beast. Going in and doing the software side and then leaving and coming back. And it's like the ocean called you back to home. It's like you're like just dove in. You're like, yeah, you're like ASMR, like the conch is calling me to the ocean. It's like Jason Momoa with a spear. Come fight the evil fish with me.
Hair blowing in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. What advice would you have for females in entrepreneurship to feel empowered to jump in with both feet and not be afraid or, you know, asking too many questions about themselves that they feel like they can't do it because they're just they're the minority in that group that's really interested in entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Well, I think as women, we have a tendency to overanalyze, overthink, and second guess ourselves. And one business book I did read that was amazing is called When Women Lead by Julia Bornstein. She is a journalist, so she has tons of data and statistics. But there was this chapter that really, really resonated with me on women leaders who go for venture capital. And this woman did a study on the founders who gets funded, which is typically male, and that's typically because the people who are choosing people who are like them, right? So most of the time, a man will come into his pitch with a firm and say, pound his fists on the table, say, I'm going to make $1 billion company. It's going to blow everybody out of the water and just have huge confidence. Where a woman is going to come into that room and she's done her homework. She has all of that plan A, B, C, D. She has, forecasting. She has all of this stuff that is expertly prepared because she is second guessing herself, right? But those people, they're choosing the company of the confidence and that outgoing, that kind of confidence is also scary.
Sure.
But so, I would just really recommend not only that book, but looking at what you might need in your support system. So not just having like a front row for you that's there, but of people who are thinking differently and can add to the different elements that maybe you struggle with, right? So let's say that you are really not confident in sales. Who is someone that you could go talk to and get their advice, practice a sales pitch with? Maybe you're not great at financials. Get, somebody that has accounting experience. So I think really being able to build your front row of who your supporters are, but where you need that support. It's not just a group of friends, right? It's like your own mini advisory board.
I love that advice. I think, and that to echo that as well, people that have a really strong why, I think that's the drive with it, guys or girls, like anybody that's in like, if you're going to get into entrepreneurship, it's not about money or exiting, making a bunch of, it's like, you're going to be in this shit for a while. And like, just like you said, embracing the grit, I think that's huge. And it aligns well with like what you'd mentioned, just having that support system around that. If you know you're going to, like, you just need to vent to someone, like have someone that you vent to, a spouse or whoever, like just have that person. I love that.
But also having some boundaries because like, if I were to go and vent to my partner every time, that's not going to be the same. So like having somebody that has that business experience and creating a little bit of that boundary, I think is healthy.
Yeah, I love that. I know like my wife just went off on her own to do her hair salon full time in October. And similarly, like she doesn't know half the stuff I'm dealing with because one, I don't like complaining to her about something like you can't do anything. You're just gonna be like, oh, that sucks, you know. But the other piece is like some of the stuff she just might not understand because she's not in my industry. So I think that's a lot of it. Just like having the, like you said, the person in another state that's like competition, but not really, that you could lean on, or someone locally that has that knowledge. I think it's good to have an ear of people that actually get what you're talking about.
Right.
That's always helpful. Kind of closing down the conversation here today. What's kind of the vision for the future? You've got these two ventures that are going. You mentioned growing Softvoya, also Tumbleweed. What's an ideal outcome for both of those for you, and what's kind of the mission or the angle to get there?
Yeah. I think just keep on being my authentic self and finding people who can help me build this army of innovation. I want to change the way that people are going about building digital products and how they invest in them. Long are the days of waterfall software development. And then I also want to make a difference. I want to make people's lives easier during, you know, some of the most stressful times in their life. And I think that goes across any venture. It's more, how do I use my creative abilities to not just make a difference, but help people.
I love that so much. That's so great. If people are listening, where would you send them? Where should people go if they're looking to learn more about Softvoya or follow you online? Where would you send people if they're looking for you?
Yeah, great question. Find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. Colleen Kinsey, and then PMP, which stands for not pimp. It stands for product management. Wait, I just forgot it. I forgot my own cert.
PIMP. Da, 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 da.
Like, you can cut that, right?
No, right. We'll leave it in. That's fun. I like that.
Yeah, I forgot what the cert is. Colleen Kinsey is on LinkedIn. Also, feel free to email me, or you know what? Hey, if you just need a quick founder coffee, my email is cxo@softvoya.com.
That's awesome. We'll make sure to put that in this show notes as well. Thanks again so much for coming on the show. And
thanks for having me.
So happy to have another avid listener that comes on so they know the flow. Like, this is cool. Like, we're building a little army of people that are wanting to learn more about business stuff and get connected. I love this stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. And now you may unbuckle your seatbelt.
Right. There you go. Yeah. The ride has come to a conclusion. Please look for your personal items before you exit the vehicle. Okay, guys, that's another episode of Rhymes with Odd. If you guys have made it this far in the show, make sure to give us a 5-star rating or subscribe if you're looking and watching on YouTube. We do episodes every single Monday morning, so make sure to tune in for that. My name is Ryan Snod. It Rhymes with Odd. We'll catch you in the next episode. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.